Yes, we got it, dude. We got it.
All right, boys. Let's have some fun.
Cool.
Bill, you recording?
I'm recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Get With The Programming. We are in our first series, episode 9, as we analyze the 2015 CrossFit Games. I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
Along with Bill Grunler.
Wolverine.
And we have a very special guest joining us. And I think we got in trouble last time. We didn't have any theme music for Roy McKernan. So I decided to put on some theme music for our special guest.
That's it right there.
That's the one.
Oh, man, I'm feeling that one.
Oh, Dan Bailey joining the show, ladies and gentlemen. How'd you like that? He didn't even know this was coming.
No, I didn't see that one coming. I'm not totally surprised, but yeah, no, I didn't see that coming. It's good.
If you could see a man blush via podcast radio waves, this would be a good
It's right now.
They can feel the heat, man. I know they can feel the heat over the audio waves.
Coursing through the waves right now.
The amount of production that went into me finding that audio clip and setting it on the board took entirely too long, but it was totally worth this moment right now.
Yeah.
Totally. 100%.
And it probably won't ever come up on Instagram at all. So prepare yourself for never hearing that song or your face put together.
I might have done a little extra searching for some photos and some super.
Oh, great.
So, this won't be the last time we can make Mr. Dan Bailey blush. Dan, dude, thank you so much for being on. We reached out to you a little while ago, and then looking at 2015, you're one of the best storytellers in the game. You are, you're part of the Rogue Iron Game show. I love what you bring to the commentary side. I've always loved what you brought to the competition side, and you're just a good old-fashioned great human being, and we're stoked to have you on, man. Thanks for being here.
No, for sure. You guys are, same thing, right back at both of you guys. Top notch. Appreciate what you've done in the community. Fired up that you guys are jumping on the mics now on your own. And, Chase, it's been great being on the Iron Game with you. And Bill, man, we were just talking before. I haven't seen you in forever. Haven't chatted in a while. So I'm fired up for what we got here.
I know, man. It's going to be a good time. It'll be a good time for sure.
Dan gets
Needed.
Jeez, you got old.
Shut up. Shut up.
I think at one point somebody asked me on a podcast that they said, I can't remember something about they're referring to your name, Bill. And I said, I'm pretty sure it's like the definition of a very fit, very old man. Yeah, just an incredibly fit, that is what a Bill Grunler is.
I mean, that's cool. I'll take it. I'll take what I can get, especially nowadays. Jeez. So, hey, you're officially in the Baby Masters, right?
I am in the Baby Masters, yeah.
Man.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Baby Masters.
Come
on into the jacuzzi with the Baby Masters.
I don't know, Well, we'll see. I don't know what in the world's going to happen in the next, 6 months of CrossFit Games. I don't know what's going to happen in the next week. Yeah, so.
Totally.
We'll see.
I know you guys can't see this, but I look a bit disheveled at the moment. I just did Angie for the first time in about 2 years, about 15 minutes before we hopped on. So my heart rate's a little jacked. Right.
Yeah, dude. You didn't want to drink coffee beforehand? You had to go do Angie before that?
I figured it'd be less jitters, but then I realized that I still do pre-workout. So like my hands are a little shaky. 5-second PR. So I'm pretty good about that.
All right. Cool. PR, that's good. Yeah.
They're few and far between. So, hey, speaking of few and far between, it's been a few years since the 2015 CrossFit Games. How about that high quality transitional statement? Woo! That's professional right there.
That is professional.
Yeah. On to join us as we go through the programming. And what we had the last 2 episodes, 2013, we had Josh Bridges. 2014, we had Roy McKernan. And as we move into 2015, Dan, this is a great year for you. But, I think when you watched what was the Games documentary called? I can't remember.
I think it was just called Fittest on Earth or The Fittest. Yeah. Something like that. The Fittest film. Yeah.
And I think when you look at, say, your overall outcome, which this year you got 4th place overall,
Yeah,
kind of how your weekend went, it was quite the roller coaster.
very much so. Huge roller coaster. Like, I mean, I came in feeling great, in great shape, probably the best shape I've ever been in, and a whole lot of confidence in the weekend. And, some events started unfolding and, I felt pretty prepared for some of the stuff that we kind of got hints for and all that. So coming into the weekend, just, a whole lot of confidence, but that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand just about the games is how much of a roller coaster it is for every athlete and how the smallest little things can make the biggest difference in an event where every second counts, every point counts, every rep counts, like, especially when you're talking about being among the top 1% of the 1% of people who are competing for the title of fittest man on earth. So, but yeah, awesome weekend. The outcome was fantastic. Wish it would have been just a little better, but it was amazing. I was really happy with the result. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the from that year? I mean, I'm sure that's probably a pretty strong, memorable year. I mean, you're right there, right at the podium. I mean, you've always been really close and real consistent with everything. But what was the high? And I don't mean like placing wise, but what was the high point? What was the low point of that year for you?
Man, of just like the games weekend.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there obviously was a lot of ups and downs. You talked about that, but like, what specifically were like man, that was really cool, or man, that one really sucked.
Yeah, the one that really sucked that sticks out in my mind is the sandbag event.
Yeah,
just moving sandbags from A to B. I mean, awesome, super cool. It was a repeat event basically from, I want to say 2010, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. Although the wheelbarrow that Rogue made for this one was like, it was built like a Sherman tank. So yeah, but yeah. So I was fired up for it. I like kind of the grunt work stuff. I like just moving objects from A to B. Not a lot of technique, not a lot of skill involved. You just got to go, right? But it turns out getting the sandbags back over the wall on the opposite side of the tennis stadium floor took a little bit of skill, took a little bit of thought process. And so I practiced a couple things in warm up, and basically there was a handful of sandbags that it's like, I threw it up one time, it didn't go, came back down, hit me in the face, whatever. And you're like, as an athlete, you have to have that short-term memory. Hey, shake it off, forget about it. Like, don't dwell on it, grab it, go get it up over the wall on this try. I go again and miss again, comes down. It's like, okay, like here we go. And then I go again. And then that short-term memory started going away. And it's like, you start swearing in your head. You start swearing out loud. You start getting really frustrated. And it's like, all right, this has to go over the wall now. And then it didn't again. I can't remember how many times I missed one of the sandbags. And so looking at that, it's just like, it's just one of those techniques. It wasn't like, I don't want to call it a fitness issue. It's not like I wasn't capable, I wasn't in shape, I wasn't strong enough, didn't have enough, maybe you could argue like coordination, accuracy, agility, some of those things, but just left so many points on the board with a really simple like mental error, not like making the correction that needed to be made, so that you failed once and that was it, you made the correction and then you move on. It was like 4 times in a row that when you lose with that 10, 20, 30, 40 seconds even, the field is just blowing by you if they're not making mistakes.
That be a hole in your fitness than just
did you you weren't the athlete that goes back to figure out exactly how much better you needed to
let's
to
not
do
it early in the show.
Oh, 100% I am, Bill. I don't know what athlete isn't that. Of course. Why you're happy, but at the same time you go home, you sit down at the computer and start pulling your hair out like, oh my gosh, I need to finish like 5 seconds or 3 seconds faster in about 3 events, and you would have been second place or third place in the games. Yeah, break out the abacus, start moving some things around, and holy smokes.
Oh no.
Best moment real quick before we go.
I bet I could guess.
Ooh, oh man, yeah,
it might be one of my favorite moments of the games too.
Your favorite what?
If your moment is the same as mine.
The sprint event and snagging the sunglasses.
Sunglasses, man.
Yep. Dude, I want to know, like, I went back and I was watching the videos, like, you need to invest in one of those gator things that you strap your glasses. You lost your glasses like 4, 5, 6 times, man. Every event those
Same
things are
weekend.
coming off.
Yeah,
That's
DT. They were
probably
popping
why.
off.
That's probably why you missed the sandbag thing, is because the
Probably-
sunglasses kept falling off.
I wasn't wearing sunglasses in that event, Bill.
Exactly, because they fell off.
Because
See,
they
that's
fell
the
off
problem.
round one. That's right. I couldn't see where to put the sandbag.
Oh man. Well, hey,
But
let's get into these events, shall we? Okay. Event number 1. We go to the beach and we do since I would say 2011.
11.
So Bill, you tested 2011 swim event.
Yep.
Nobody tested 2012 because it was on Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
14. This one I didn't do. This is the one of the swim events I didn't test, and it was the swim, paddleboard, swim, which was in these distances: 500-meter swim, 2-mile paddleboard. We haven't seen a paddleboard yet, and then a 500-meter swim. Now, I believe, was there one year, Dan, where those night before the games briefing where he's going to brief like the event? Did he bring out a paddleboard one year, but then like fake everyone out that we weren't going to do that? I feel like that happened.
I think he brought out like a stand-up paddleboard one year.
Yeah.
And faked that. And then the paddleboard that we actually used in 2015 was not stand-up. It was prone, like a professional prone paddleboard, which arguably requires a lot more skill to do properly and quickly and efficiently.
A lot more skill.
Yeah.
Video clip in the 2015 documentary.
The El Rolo.
The old Gator roll with Dan Bailey.
I tried to surf my way back into the beach there.
They even had the sound effects in that one too. This
yeah,
all the sloshing of the water is going over.
Yep. Nope.
Dude, I when I saw that, and this comes from a lifeguard background, when I saw that, I was so stoked. One, because they were pulling out the paddleboards, because I like paddleboards and I'm decent at that, so that would be super fun. But it's the first time that the entire event was in the water. Like, we've had some runs, we've had things where you have to come out and do muscle ups, you've had things where you have to do burpees and thrusters and all that. This is strictly water. And so now you have a big gap between those that can sort of hang out in the water and those that are like, they've spent some time in the water. And if you've had that kind of experience, I mean, you're gonna be in such a better position for so many people, you know. Or the flip side is that the whole field is just so bad that like you can kind of like hang in there with the group, you know what I mean? And this is like the early part where, you know, CrossFitters still weren't good swimmers yet. Still haven't figured that one out yet. But that was like, I think that was a real specific water test.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember actually being pretty excited about it when I heard about it. I mean, I would have, for me personally, for those like longer, the outdoor beach events, whatever, I want a little more variety. Like me personally, like one year I think we did running, we did like swimming, and we did some kettlebell thrusters and burpees and stuff like that. I really liked that one. But at the same time, because I've been living in California now for a year and a half or so, you know, I picked up surfing pretty regularly. So I knew what to expect. I knew like, okay, the paddleboard's not going to be quite the same as a surfboard, but I know what's going to fatigue first. I know kind of how to pace this a little bit. And I know that like when the moment hits where you're basically just flopping around your arms like noodles in the water, like don't panic. It's normal. Like this is your speed. You can't go any faster, and you need to prep yourself and pick it up on the swim for the last 500 meters. And so I didn't do bad in that one, being, you know, born and raised in the Midwest, born and raised in Ohio. So I was pretty happy.
Which was the Australians.
Oh my gosh, they killed everyone. It wasn't even close.
3 in the top 5 on the men's side and 3 in the top 6 on the women's side.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, once again, it would be like having like, okay, you guys, to this year for the CrossFit Games, we're going to have ice skating race. Well, I think I put on ice skates like 4 times in my life. So like, I would be like, well, okay, cancel this one.
Right.
You know, try not to get last. That's what you're shooting for. And that's kind of the same sort of a deal. And I know that that's the case. So like part of me when I'm looking at the program, part of me is like, okay, well, is that too specific for the test? You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden we're really picking a task that is very like really specific. Swimming is one thing. I can argue that swimming is something that you need to test because if you fall in the water, you got to be able to get out. But when in that definition of fitness, it is like you need to get on a professional race paddleboard and work your way through 2 miles of paddling, you know. Even though I love the event, I think that my personal opinion, as much as I love the event, I think that is when you look at the test like that, it starts to get really close to that line of is it too specific?
It's too specific,
for what you're trying to get.
I mean, it'd be like a strong event.
Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, and I when I was looking at all this stuff, I think the same type of thing. Like you go to the clean and jerk, 1 rep max clean and jerk. You know, when we get to that, it's kind of the same type of thing. It's a specific thing, but like more. There are so many more people that have.
But when
the
you're
ability to get to the bar, you know.
Yeah, but the argument that you can make there is that the ability that you're testing in the clean and jerk, you almost have to use that to test the thing that you want to test. Right. Like if you want to test cardiovascular endurance, stamina, you know, muscular endurance, if you want to test those things, you don't have to just paddle for 2 miles and swim for 1,000 meters. You can find a whole bunch of creative ways to kind of do that. When it comes down to just testing like raw strength and, you know, explosive ability and some of the, I feel like you're a little more limited in that category where the clean and jerk and snatch, like it's something that sticks out like a sore thumb is like, well, yes, you would obviously do this to figure out who has that capability the best.
Yeah. But I love the event though anyway.
Yeah, it was long. Okay. So Yonakoski wins 42 minutes for Yonakoski.
Yeah.
On the women's side, Cara Saunders, 45-30. Now, was this a Wednesday night with a Thursday break again? Was that the format?
I think they did do that one. I want to say yes.
I think we did do that, yeah.
Okay. So the night event goes back to the tennis stadium. Now, we kind of did the same thing. Or not, we did the same thing last year where 14 was that swim, thruster, burpee one that you were talking about, Dan, and then we moved to the tennis stadium for the overhead squat. Then we moved back to the tennis stadium that night and revisit. Is this our second games repeat event of all time?
Because 2007.
They did the 2007 event.
And then this one, yeah.
So this is our second repeat event. This is from the 2010 CrossFit Games where they just put a pile of sandbags on one side of the tennis stadium and said, move it over to the other side of the tennis stadium, which still is. So when I got cut so early in the 2010 CrossFit Games, this was the one event that hurt the most to watch because it was just so raw and unique and just what was Rory's story last week about one of what Boz would consider one of his favorite type of events of all time is like, take all that and move it over there as fast as you can, right? Was that chop wood, carry water style programming. And it was just as simple as that, as drag. Gosh, how many bags were there? Different weights, was it?
Different weights.
It was like 4 and 4, wasn't it? It was. I mean, they increased the weight this year.
More simplified this year.
Yeah, they increased the weight. That first year they had like 5 different weights and shapes of the bags. I think between like the really little ones that people are like whizzing across the up the stairs. But this one, like they upped it, so it was 720 and 480 on this one. The first time it was 600 and 370. So I mean that's a big jump. Yeah. You know. And no wheelbarrows broke on this year, which is good.
No.
That's a plus.
Plus. Yeah. I think there's something like you said, where like you guys mentioned the simplicity of it. I feel like almost anybody can watch that or tune in and be like, I get that. Even if you don't know what CrossFit is, it's like, oh, you're going to move this from here to here as fast as you can. And you guys are racing. Yeah. Like that's all you need to know. Like you don't need to know anything else about anything. It's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I can get down with that. Yeah.
That's just such a cool event to watch because, you know, they dragged them down the stairs, then they loaded these wheelbarrows on the tennis stadium floor, and then they wheeled them across the length of the tennis stadium floor and threw them over the wall and then climbed the wall and took them off. It was just such a cool visual spectator type event. So that's the Wednesday night event. On the women's side, Anna Tobias wins at 8:30, 30 seconds ahead of second place. On the men's side, this is kind of what you would see. Maybe you would consider this a big boy event. And Lucas Hoegberg takes first, but Fraser took second.
Yeah.
This event. And then you have Elijah Muhammad and Chad McKay. Although Elijah's probably fresh after laying on his paddleboard for about 25 minutes during the swim that morning.
He was not having that event. He was not having event one.
Poor guy.
It's one of those ones that's like, all right, damage control.
I was going to jump in, and Bill, when you're describing, is like there's one side of the coin that's the super swimmers, and then the other side of the coin where everybody's kind of stuck in the middle, and it's like, and there's a third side of the coin which has Easy Muhammad's face on it. It was like, not today. Not today.
Oh, it's funny.
All right, so we finished day one, and so gosh, I can't remember. So it's a Wednesday, and then we come back, and then we come to, I don't know if you want to call it the most controversial. One of the most controversial.
I would say yes.
I would say yeah.
At least this year, and that was Murph.
Yeah.
So Murph to start off day number 2 on a Friday. At what time of day?
I think it was like 1:30 or something, or I don't know. It was the heat of the day. It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was hot.
It was hot. And not just like the temperature hot, but there was no moving air down on the field. So like there was just like that stagnant, humid. Like really humid, dew from the grass coming up and all that. Like, yeah.
Just brutal.
And I think it actually rained or had that weird kind of like weird funky rain. It's not like a downpour, but like a rain in the morning. So that like upped the moisture in the air. So it made it even that much more humid. And I remember walking to the booth just thinking like, ew, man, I like get this wet, hot towel off me. And I'm going to go sit up in an air conditioned booth and go talk about these guys are going to be down here sweating.
Jeez. Hands over there dying on the soccer field.
Oh man. So, I mean, everybody was pretty fired up in the starting line. You've got everybody just clustered together, but you're all about to funnel down into the tunnel that goes out into the runway. So you don't want to be, you don't want to be the last one to get stuck through that tunnel. When in reality, it doesn't matter that much. It's a mile. Like things will shake out. You will be able to. We're not running 100 yards and like at 50, we're going to funnel down. Like that's what it felt like we were all trying to do. And I kind of made up in my mind, I'm like, get out front so you don't have to mess with anybody in the pack. So I shot out pretty fast and kind of what I thought was settling in to my first mile. And I don't know if I was just too excited or too fired up or what, but I came back in the stadium and they had somebody on a stopwatch yelling out the mile split times. And I'm thinking, all right, if I'm like 7:40, 7:30, somewhere in there, like I'm doing good. Like that's probably a good pace, not too fast, it's not too slow. And you can jump right into the pull-ups and kind of maintain a good pace through there. And I come through and I think I heard her yell out like 6:39, like 6:41. And I just, in my head, I'm like, oh no, like, oh boy, like I know what this means. Like I know, 10, 15 seconds, a little bit too fast. Okay. 1 minute too fast. Like you drank too much pre-workout before you decided to jump into Murph. So,
and that was, you came in second out of the mile or third?
Ooh, I don't know.
I think Joe Scully came out.
He was flying,
blasted the field, and then that was the last we saw him. And that's like one of the funniest things to talk about that guy. It's been so great, and I love that he got into the whole like Trash Talk Thursday thing because that was basically his 15 seconds of fame right there. Him coming in the stadium, and then that was it.
Yeah, I want to say that he came through there in under 6. I want to say it was something ridiculous. Yeah.
Tell him like it was like the half marathon row from a couple of years prior. He's like, the first mile is worth it.
You get points
scored. Yeah.
I totally would have done that to the guys that don't pay attention at the games very much. Just pick out that one dude.
Yeah.
Did you hear what Dave just said?
It's an extra 100 points. Extra 100 points waiting for you.
Got myself a free spot on the leaderboard.
Right.
Well, the most infamous moment, aside from Joe Scally, and we won't belabor this too much because it's been covered quite a bit, just is what happened to Cara Webb or Cara Saunders at the time, and having that heat injury. A few actually athletes suffered from that. Annie Thorisdottir.
Yep.
Stopped a ton of times. Yeah.
This was BKG's coming out moment was
Oh my gosh.
dominating Murph.
Guy from Iceland.
Guy from Iceland.
Literally never in the heat.
Who got sunburned on the first 400 meters of the first mile and never looked back.
True story.
Sam Briggs wins at 39:10. And what was that?
Gosh.
At 39:10 on the men's side, she would have gotten second.
Man, but I was so stoked though. Like there was a lot of discussion about that, about when it was put in and should they have put it there. And I mean, everyone has done this. I love the fact that like it was done the correct way. It wasn't broken up,
Yes.
partitioned, and I was stoked that it was done that way. The classic 100, 200, 300 set up that way. My own personal opinion on when it was put in there, and the fact that it was in the middle of the day, and the fact that the ladies had to go even when it was hotter than that because they were after the guys. Dave took a lot of heat on that because he said people were saying that was unsafely programmed and put in there. And I honestly disagree. I mean, everyone had to deal with the heat, and some people honestly dealt with it, and other people didn't deal with it. And I think that that's more of a not a incorrect or unsafe programming aspect. I think it's more of a training aspect where people trained to be able to deal with that. Did they know? Okay, did they put water bottles down anywhere so they could, douse themselves off or that kind of thing? There were a lot of things that could happen, and there were a lot of people that wore hats and a lot of people that didn't wear hats, and the ones that didn't wear hats, you could tell who those people were,
Right. And go ahead, Chase. Go ahead.
All right, I was going to ask you what Bill's talking about water bottles, and Matt had a funny story about a cooler of water and thought it was a trick about Dave saying he could. Like, what were the rules when you were out there in terms of maybe like leaving your space to get something off the side?
And I think that's what where most of the safety issues came into play. The time of day, the workout, whatever. I don't have any beef with that. That's fine. Like it's I'm pretty sure in the level 1 manual it does say something about training in the heat and being able to acclimatize yourself to different scenarios.
Yes.
Right. So I'm fine with that, and I was fine with that, but and I'd have to check myself, but I'm not sure if we were allowed to even bring a water bottle down there. And the cooler that was off in the corner, it was kind of like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess you can go get it if you want it, but you have to go get it, and it would take from your time, right? And even those two things is not in of itself. I mean, I'd have to double check myself on that if we were allowed to bring water down or not. Probably have to go back and look at the video and see if anybody did. I don't remember dousing myself with any water until long after I finished the event. So I don't think that I did bring anything down there. And then I know at the end, the only confusion was you finished, and I don't think that we were supposed to leave. Like we had to stay down there. So, and there was no water at the finish line initially.
There's no water.
And so it's like, there's nothing there to, if somebody has gone to that level, to subside it, right?
Yeah.
Or to be prepared for it, or to, there is a infamous shot, I think, of, people running over to Cara and trying to peel the vest off of her and running to get water to bring it to her. So it's like, it wasn't there, like nothing was ready. And I think that is the issue.
I think the only shade that was on the floor was
it was under a trolley or
that
something.
trolley thing, and people were like, the girls were all trying to duck underneath to get under that just to get some shade.
Right.
Crazy.
So there was some things that could have been done there to make it a little more safe.
Yeah.
I think when I look at the event, I have no problem with the event being in there. I think it's an amazing test. It's such a cool test to throw out, especially at Games athletes. I mean, who better to watch take on Murph than athletes against Games athletes? I would say I think there was a lot of things that they just weren't prepared for. And I'm not going to place blame as anyone's certain fault or they screwed up or this should have been done. I think they honestly just didn't see it coming.
Right.
And they see this unfolding the way it did, just because I didn't even think about it until I was watching it myself. So I'm not.
And we've all done it. We've all done Murph so many times. It's like
hotter weather than that. I live in Texas, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course, I'm not going that fast. If we want to look at the event itself, I thought it was so cool. It was a cool little. I think it was one of Dave's first Instagram posts about a tease of the games. So going in, it was neat to see. And aside from I would say some of that controversy. Cool event, tough event. The setup was awesome. All the athletes out there and spread out all over the field, and a good unique test to throw in there, especially before you go. Bill, we saw this last year or in 2014 where this pattern of long to start,
Long and then
followed
the
by
heavy.
short and intense, and then
Yeah.
long again and followed by short and intense. And the next event coming up is the snatch speed ladder. Now we had the speed clean ladder the year before, and I thought it was no surprise to see it come back because that speed clean ladder was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
A little bit different setting this time because it was coming off Murph, so I would say the mood coming in was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Clean ladder 2014 because that was Saturday night.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this was still midday on Friday. But again, a fun event to watch. It was really cool to watch people move that bar. And just snatch is just so much fun to watch people who know what they're doing lift. It's one of my favorite movements to do, to watch, and to see it unfold in that speed format again was cool to see.
Yeah, that was another event where I wish I could have had something back there. I think that's an event that I should have been really good at. I feel like I should have been top 10 minimum, top 5, if I could squeeze into that later round, even though the weights got that much heavier. But the first round especially, just the weights aren't that heavy, it's moving fast, and that's what I do well. And I missed a 205-pound snatch. And if you miss in that first round, you're out. Like, you're done. Like, everybody's hitting that. And so I think I caught it a little bit forward, just trying to rush too much. And barbell came down, and it's like, well, you just hurry up and do it again and then hope that somebody else messes up in a later round, and they didn't. I don't think I went on to the next round after that. So it took a huge hit on the head in that one.
Yeah, I just went to look for your time, and I had to scroll.
You had to push the wheel pretty far.
I pushed down 5 times and I went up 2 more because surely I went past Dan's.
Yeah, but you knew it had to be on there, just like you were saying. Like the from the year before, like the excitement and how fun it was. It was like it's natural just to have that next one in there. Have the snatch in there. One of the things I was thinking about though is, again, just like kind of what Dan was saying, is it's very exciting to watch. But what happens if you're one of those people that gets caught into either one little bobble? Okay, that's part of the game. But then what if you're in one of those heats that either is not a very strong heat and you get to bump up, and then one of those people get knocked out that probably should be, in one of those top heats or whatever. And then that point spread, like there's a very high opportunity to lose points very easily in this event next to something else. So, when you're looking at the whole thing, it's like, it isn't that you had a no rep. If you had a no rep and then you were disqualified from the event almost.
Right.
Right. So there's a high risk on this one, which I think is real unique compared to the other events program-wise.
I think that was more like introducing a kind of a sport element to an event, kind of like track and field. Yeah. Because did they take this? Did they take the winner of every heat and then maybe the top 2 overall after that, or just the winners in every heat?
No, I think the winner in every heat, and then like the next so many fastest times, I think, which partially agree with, partially don't. Should have just been the fastest times because the fastest people are the fastest. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That one too, like you mentioned, Bill, the no rep scenario or something like that, or the bobble. Like, if you get no repped on a pull up that you actually did get, you get a bad call in Murph or something, and it's like, okay, I mean, that's one pull up, that's whatever. Yeah. But you get a no rep on that one snatch, and your event's over. So, and at the same time, the counter to that point is you have to be fit enough to overcome those things. That happens in sports all the time. At the same time, you want like flawless judging and flawless whatever, everything, but it's just not going to happen, and you have to be prepared for that too.
Yeah, and I mean, and you can get very geeky with it and be like, okay, well, accuracy, and coordination, and even under intensity, you should still be able to have those so you wouldn't miss. And I mean, there's like book smart, and then there's like real life smart, and like that one kind of like goes into the book smart realm a little bit rather than the real life. But even with that, and this is one of the things that we especially me and Chase, I mean, we obviously look at the numbers and all this, but then be on the broadcast side, it's interesting when you have an event that it may not be programmed or tested absolutely correct, but it looks really fucking cool to watch
Right.
on the TV, and everyone is super excited and it hypes everyone up, and it's like, okay, well, was that bad? Because that was pretty dang cool,
Yeah.
It's really hard to argue with those ones, and so it's really hard to argue with this one, even though it's I mean, who doesn't like big weights going up like a fast? Come on, it's awesome.
Right.
So,
All right, so John Pera wins on the men's side.
yeah,
That
John.
was cool to watch. Got him
Yeah.
in action. When was the last time he did it? Competed prior to this? Years.
I don't know.
You know what? He was always in the mix in California.
Yeah, in
And
California
then,
in the regional.
yeah.
Gosh, I should.
He's a sheriff. He was doing the
Yes.
sheriff thing, Yeah.
And then Brooke Entz takes the speed snatch ladder for the women. And then we move into a unique twist on a CrossFit Games event because they brought in the fans.
Yeah.
So they announced the event, and it was DT. And when first announced, everyone's like, hell yeah, DT. I'll put it down. I'm like, oh, wait. Little twist. And they gave it to the fans where you could pick heavy DT, which was 205 and 145.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or double DT, so double the rounds. So it's 12 deadlifts, 9 hang power cleans, 6 push jerks for 5 rounds, or you could do it for 10 as double DT. And when they told us this in the truck going in, it's like, here's what we're going to do. I was like, just make it heavy DT, because all these fans are going to pick heavy DT because everybody wants to go heavy.
Heavy
all the time.
Heavy all the time. It's like, I'll bet you $1,000 right now the fans pick heavy. And they did.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Was Friday night. So we got our nighttime event, and it's heavy DT coming back to the tennis stadium. And oh geez, all the things you guys have already done, and you go into heavy DT. What was it like warming up for that event, Dan?
Get up to 205, do about 1 deadlift, 1 hang power clean, 1 push jerk. Like, all right, I'm ready because I'm not wasting any of these reps right now. This is going to be a grind. Like, yeah, it was great. It was long. Yeah, it was a long. Wait, did you say a long day?
It was just a long day for you guys.
Oh, yeah. All those things stacked in on top of each other. Like, yeah. But that event was great. I loved it. I was so stoked. I was really happy that the fans picked heavy, because after the carnage from Murph, I'm like, I don't know if I could have handled another like high volume anything that day. So, yeah, I did well in that one. I was pretty happy with how I finished, all things considered. So it was a good event.
That was a bounce back event, because you started the weekend off. Let's see, you went 8th, and then 29, 17, 34, and then 6th.
Yeah.
That was kind of like your sine wave uptick going into Saturday. But man, that was a fun event to watch people do, because I mean, if you had the respect of what the weight was, I think if you were just watching it as a fan casually, you're like, okay, it's DT. I was like, no, that's heavy. That they're doing it in times that you still couldn't do if you scaled normal DT.
Totally.
Right.
And that's what I think is cool about when the games with the CrossFit community, and all the CrossFit people, members or whatever that have done CrossFit or kind of messed around with the workouts, they've played with this before. So they know what it feels like. They know that it's like, all right, I'm going to do 11 deadlifts, and then on the 12th one, I'll stand it up, and that'll be my 12, and then I'll go into my hang cleans from there.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what they would do, and then they're watching, and most people will scale that. And then the ones that don't, they know that their time is around 10 minutes if they're doing it, and they're watching you guys do it at like 205 pounds. But what was crazy to watch was just how heavy those hang power cleans were at 205. Like watching you guys have to really think about the reps you were doing and being very aware of, okay, how long do I need to rest so that I can get into this next round? Because there's a lot more waiting than we would normally see. I mean, you guys do regular DT, and it's like the bar doesn't leave your hands.
No.
I mean, really, it's like it's in your hands the whole time. But it was really different to watch. But it was the cat and mouse game on the guys and even on the girls' side too was fun to watch. It was cool.
Yeah, if you could get those 6 shoulder to in the latter rounds, like 3, 4, and 5, if you could get those 6 shoulder to overhead unbroken, you were in really good shape. Because it's like if you don't have to stop there, then as soon as that barbell hits the floor, it's like I can deadlift 205 11 times.
Right.
Like I can round my back out to all belief and rip that thing off the floor. Not that anyone should do that, but
Dan Bailey, not a medical professional, giving that advice.
But yeah, if you could get those 6 shoulder to overhead unbroken, which I think Ben Smith ended up winning that event, and just smooth operator, like watching him move, like he is so clean. So good reason that he won that one. But I was tired after we were done with DT.
Didn't you kind of lose count or understanding of where you were?
Yeah, I was done with something. I can't remember which movement I was. I wouldn't have thought of that until you reminded me. I was done with. I think it was either deadlifts or something, and I just kept repping them out. I don't know why. I think I did like 3 extra reps or something, and they're like, 12, you're done. Stop. And I'm like, oh God, like, all right.
Please stop. You know what you'll never catch me doing anything extra of? Deadlifts. If I got 3 no reps, like you're at 9, I'm like, nope, I did 12 and I'm moving on.
Yeah.
But you're right. Watching Ben Smith go through this event at a consistent pace, and I feel like this really set the tone for Ben for the rest of the weekend, because he never was out there going crazy in an event, or it's just like he was in his own, he was just in that zone, right? That flow state where he's just moving through casually. It wasn't casual. We know how hard he's going, but
he just makes it look easy.
Just made it look so effortless.
He was amazing that year. And I mean, in one, probably something that worked in his benefit was everyone was, all the pressure was on Matt. So everyone's looking at Matt, and Ben just kind of, I mean, like if Ben wasn't winning, well, he wasn't supposed to, because Matt was supposed to win. So all that pressure was like dumped on Matt. But dude, Ben just looked amazing in like every event, picket, swimming, moving barbells, doing this stuff. It's like, dude, you're on fire right now. No one's even looking at you either. No one's even watching him. It's crazy.
All right, so Ben Smith wins heavy DT, and this is Friday night. And on the women's side, the race was just as exciting, if not more, was seeing Sarah Sigmundsdottir, her little coming out party, going head-to-head with Katrin towards the end of that, and with Annie. But Sarah destroys everyone, winning heavy DT, and I feel like that might have put her close, if not into first place, going into Saturday. So we've reached the halfway point. So we move from Friday night to Saturday morning, and one of my favorite moments of the 2015 CrossFit Games was watching good dude Dan Bailey sprint across I got to watch the individuals because I was doing teams, and I see you take off, and I'm like, oh, this is just, it's just so nice to watch someone do something that they've
so good at.
Like what, 10, 15 years of your life perfecting.
Yeah.
People forget that part. It's like, oh, Dan's fast. I'm like, no, it'd be like saying, oh, Michael Phelps is fast. Like, you have any idea what they put in to look like they do at the speed of which they have? So I respected that. I understood that. But to watch you out there, knowing how excited you were to do it, and then I see you do these hurdles at the end, and I was like, did anybody just see what I just saw? I saw the glasses come off.
Yeah.
I see you swoop, and then I was like, I just saw the most impressive things I've ever seen. was like grabbing Bill's shoulder. I was standing behind him as this is happening.
As you're doing like 6-foot steeplechase jumps over these like 20 whatever 2-inch high little pylon deals.
All right, so let me explain the event, and I should
Not
probably
a hurdler, dude. What happened?
I'm not a hurdler. Did not do the hurdles in high school or college. That was not hurdling. I was jumping over those. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we went to the soccer stadium Saturday morning, and I'm talking way too much in an event that Dan won. It was a obstacle course, sprint / hurdle. So it was kind of a blend of 2000. Gosh, was it 12? They had the cones.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So you had the zigzag sprint to start, dead sprint ahead for what, 50, 60 yards?
Yeah, something like that.
2 hurdles at the end?
Probably like 4.
4, I think.
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah.
There goes my memory. So Dan, take us through what's it like waking up that morning?
You wake up and the butterflies are there. Like it's already, because it's in your head. It's like 100 points coming my way. Like you can do this and you need to do this. And yeah. So you're excited. Anytime like somebody tees one up for you, that's basically like, it's your jam, it's your thing. It's your time to show the talent that you have. Nervous for it because you care. Like, so super nervous. Don't want to take a misstep. Don't want to get a penalty or something stupid happen where it takes away from your efforts. But it's just excited, just, stoked to get out on the field and do your thing.
So I always have this question, and this is how I feel, and I try to explain this to other people, is when an event comes up that I know I'm not only good at, but I can win, I'm always way more of a wreck going into it than I am at an event that I know I suck at. Do you tend to feel the same way?
I think so. The nerves are probably a little bit higher, and there's just more pressure. You're putting more pressure on yourself because the expectation's there. And, in an event that you're just, is going to be bad for you, it's kind of like you have to relax a little bit more. And, it takes some of the eyeballs off you. It takes some of the pressure off you to just kind of go out there, do your thing and do well versus, oh no, I need to win this. Like, this needs to be mine. Like, this has to happen.
That was so much fun to watch.
So why do you think, or were you bummed up? Because the way they set this up is it was a 50-point event down and then a 50-point event back. The year before that, they did the sprint sled, same exact setup, but I think that was 100 and 100. It was 2.
Was it?
I think it was.
I don't know. I don't remember. I was not thrilled that it was only 50 and 50. I think it 100% should have been 100 and 100.
Well, I think there was I want to say it was the 2011 or 2012 where they did the sprint first. It was 50 and 50 for the sled? Okay. So they did the sprint into the rope climb.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we talked about that. We talked about, okay, so what would the strategy be in an event like that? Do you try to send it for 50 points or do you pull back just a little bit so you have more for the 100-point event? And I remember you were in that where you're like, I'm going for it. Just going big. Those are my points. I'm going to get my points. But
yeah.
And it was Dan No Pace Bailey.
No. One speed, guys. It's on or off. There's no.
I was a very binary athlete at the time.
Well, actually, in 2012 on that shuttle run, I did pull the throttle back. I didn't. Oh, yeah, because that was kind of my thought process. It's like, I can probably run pretty hard and still do pretty well. Mm-hmm. But I know this next event's going to be pretty tough, so I want to have a little bit. I don't want to crush myself. I know what it's like to run an all-out quarter-mile, 300-meter shuttle, whatever you want to call it. Like, you're pretty devastated when you're done if you do it right.
Right.
So pulled the throttle back a little bit on that one, and you know what? Turns out I just really sucked at the next workout too. So that didn't pay out at all, pay off at all. So I didn't do well on that either. Wish I would have. Lesson learned. One speed from there on out. That's it.
All right. So Saturday, Dan, you win both sprint 1 and sprint 2 on the women's side. I tell you, there were some wheels out there that I was not prepared to see on the women's side. Lindy Barber,
Dude,
her
totally.
sprint 1.
Crushed it.
Yeah.
Oh, she got first and second.
First and second.
And then who won sprint 2? Oh, Kristen Holton. Again, you know, I always look at her as kind of this endurance athlete, and I should just start looking at her as an athlete.
Yeah.
Constantly surprises me, and it's only because my expectations are so skewed. I think the last time, Dan, we were, I think it was last year at the games, we're like, we better say her name early on in the weekend so we don't look stupid on Sunday.
Right. Exactly.
I was like, every time we came on camera, we just would say Kristen Holta. It wouldn't even.
Kristen Holta. No, it's a men's event. Yeah.
I think she's going to do well. It's like, it's the men's swim.
Oh.
And then, okay, so we have the sprint one. And oh my goodness. This event was so cool, but I don't think I've ever. The soccer chipper.
Yeah.
And that new pig. I've never been scared of an implement before, but looking at how hard that pig was, well, for some people, I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever seen the athletes have to do. Because how heavy was that? Was it?
Oh, it was north of, I want to say it was north of 500 pounds.
565.
Oh my.
565, yeah.
So how much we had pig 1 in 2012 during the burden run.
Yes.
And then they revamped it. So it was like this weird 2012 was the best way to explain it. It's like this long bar with plates in the middle and like rubber ends over metal. Yeah. And then this one looks like a giant domino.
It was foam. Like it was just a massive block of super dense foam.
Between the two, I mean, which one did you? I mean, I know the second one was much heavier, but was it easier to navigate? Because I know a lot of people had just trouble getting their hands into a good position on the first pig.
Yeah, the second one, it was easier, it was easier at one point at the starting point, but it was more difficult once you got it basically up here. I mean, depending on your height. If you're a bigger, taller guy, once it's to your shoulders, now there's more weight that's upright. You're doing less of a press, basically. But the first pig was more difficult because I don't think you couldn't really drive into it. You couldn't drive your shoulders into it. You couldn't like dig in with your torso. It was pretty much just a straight deadlift and like trying to lap it or get it up onto your knee somehow and then flip it over that way. But yeah, like every time I even got it to my shoulders, it almost felt like a max bench press, like off of my chest, trying to walk it forward and tip it over. And I think on either side of me was Spencer Hendel and Ben Smith, who were just like catapulting the thing down the field. And I mean, I didn't do bad with it, but like they did really well with it. So I love the combination too. It was like that super heavy flip into some technical, I believe it was legless rope climbs.
Yeah.
And then your arms are blown up. You're pretty fatigued. And then, hey, let's put you upside down to finish, for the sprint.
Yes. I'm trying to think of what the rope climb rep scheme was. Was it 4 legless?
It was 4. It was 2 and 2. So 2 with the thick rope and then 2 with the regular rope. Yeah.
Thick, right.
And it was you watch, I mean, on the women's side and on the men's side, you watched everyone fighting to lift that pig up in this, squishy but not squishy sort of setup, and then have their forearms blown out trying to lift that up, and then jumping up on the rope. And that the frustration in that event I haven't seen in any event since or before with so many athletes. Like where they're looking at the rope like I can't get up that thing. It's not going to happen. I can't sit here long enough to get up there.
How much different was that thick rope?
It's way different. I mean, it's just like it just taxes your grip that much more. Like it's just, if you don't wait, if you're not, taking your time and properly resting before you're good to go, and you're going to get all the way up there, then you're going to waste 3/4 of a climb, because that's what you see so many times, right? You see people get 3/4 of the way up there. They're maybe like, 2.5 feet away from touching where they need to get, and it's just not there. It's not going to happen. Like, you can see it on their face, you can see it in their arms, you can see it in the grip, and you just come right back down, and now you're a whole nother rope climb in, and you got nothing for it. Like, you basically did like 8 or 9 reps or 8 or 9 strict pull-ups, and you needed 10 and you needed 11. And so the whole set doesn't even count, I got away with, I didn't get away with, I'm going to correct myself there. But on the handstand walk, I was handstand walking, and I think it was my last one. It was broken up into sections, and you had to get your palm onto a white line. It had to be completely onto the white line or over to count. Like, if you kicked down and a piece of your palm wasn't over that white line, then that was a no rep, and you had to go all the way back to start your handstand walk again. And I remember doing it, and I was getting right at failure. Like, I could feel my elbows giving out, the shoulders giving out. I'm full scorpion, like out. My midline's completely broken. And I get my last palm over onto the white thing, and I was smart enough to keep my hand there, because I fell down, and she said no rep. And I'm like, look at my hand, and it's sitting there across the white. She's like, oh, you're right, and go. And she sent me home. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude, that was even, and you were like in a foot race basically with Lucas, I think, on that one at the exact same time. I think the video had you guys.
Might have been.
You had all that time to. Wow, no way.
Well, I mean, it happened very fast. Like, I mean, the explanation's there, but like, I came down, I heard no rep, but I kept my palm on the ground, and I'm like, look at that. Like, my palm is over. Like, this is over. And then I got sent.
Dude.
Oh, Billy, you're right.
Dude.
832.17. Hoberg was 832.42. So 25 hundredths of a second. I think this one was crazy because the failure element changed the entire event. Because the grip going out from the pig, the grip already smoke going into a thick legless rope climb into a normal one, 2 and 2. And then there was a 100-foot handstand walk at the end. Was it 2 sections?
50.
It might have been 2 50-foot sections. Yeah.
And just the chance that you had to take, because it was so fast. But I don't think I've seen such a huge time discrepancy between like first couple guys and the rest of the field, because you got like 4:30. So Ben Smith, this was again another one of those smooth operator events of Ben just like flipping the pig and then climbing the ropes and then walking on his hands and then coming down and putting that little one finger in the air like,
yay, I'm done.
Yay for me.
In 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And look at this, 4th place was 2 minutes slower. 4th.
Yeah.
So there's just such a huge drop off. And then, I remember this, an Akinwale moment.
Oh yeah.
Did he go the whole 100, or did she come down in the middle? She did something crazy to win.
Not sure.
She edges out.
She went the whole 100, I think, because they were talking about in the interview. They were talking about her gymnastic, the handstand walk at the end.
She's like building off that Killer Cage unbroken moment where she just never came down. She just went in and came all the way back.
Man, it's just she's such a crazy athlete, because you don't look at her and think, oh, gymnast. You look at her and think like Olympic lifter. Yeah. And then she does these unbelievable gymnastic movements and body weight movements. It's insane.
So talented. So much fun to watch her compete. All right, so Ben Smith, Elizabeth Akinwale, they take the soccer chipper. And this was the tide turning into Ben's favor over Matt, because they were going back and forth, and Matt had the lead, but this is when he blew his grip up, flipping the pig.
Yeah.
Just couldn't climb the ropes anymore. And then they go back into the tennis stadium, and they go to that 1 rep max clean and jerk. Now, everyone had their own platform.
Yep.
How many lifts did you get? I can't remember.
I had to change my audio a little bit here. I hope you guys can still hear me okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got 2 lifts, didn't you?
Yeah, and you had your own platform. It was kind of like you had a set amount of time. When the beep went off, your judge pointed at you to go. You had so much time to hit the lift, and then it was on to the next person, just kind of on a rotating schedule. Yeah.
Just 2 though? Jeez. How do you guess what to even start with?
Well, I can tell you that the warm-up area for that, my warm-up was a disaster. Like, I remember doing like a clean and jerk at 285 or something and being like, that felt like 315. Like, if I don't get over 3 bills on the floor, I'm leaving the competition. Like, we're not continuing. I don't deserve to continue if I don't hit over 300 pounds. The cumulative effect from Murph and double DT that day that just wrecked everyone. I mean, I would basically, after an event, especially on Saturday and Sunday, or more so on Sunday, shrivel up into a ball. Like, my arms would close up and like my legs would get super sore, and then I would stay that way, basically clamp down in like half rhabdo for
like full roly-poly mode.
Yeah, a majority of the day. And then when it was time to warm up, it was like, all right, I kind of got loose. I can move the joints. I can open up my elbows again. I can open up my arms, get out there, do the thing, and then come back and cool down and immediately like back into the soreness. So it definitely took a toll on the clean and jerk. But I think I ended up hitting like 317 or 318 or something like that, which wasn't great for me, but it was like that risk reward factor, right? Like, I look back on it now, it's like you should have sent it a little more. You should have gone up to 325 or 330.
It's always easy when you make it though, to go.
What's
that? It's always easy when you make the lift to go.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I could have gone a little bit more, because then when you miss it, and I've been here on this one, you miss it and you're like, man, I really shouldn't have gone that heavy.
Oh, you want to talk about missing lists and
that was a mistake.
Retiring from the CrossFit Games, Bill. Would you like to tell that story?
No, we'll save that for another show. And a lot of other beer on top of that too.
We'll have a whole show on our biggest blunders. I've got a few of them.
I think next,
Dan, to your point about thinking you could send it more, I feel like that was the limitation of 2 lifts. I think if you had 3, you would have seen a bit more people maybe gamble and go for it, because with 3 it's like, okay, what is it? Hit something you can, something you're pretty darn sure you can, and then let's just see what we can do. So I would have liked to have seen in that event specifically 3 lifts rather than just 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we would have had 3 lifts, I would have been north of 380 easily,
You beat Aaron Hanna by 30 pounds.
Yeah.
For sure.
So Aaron Hanna wins at 350. Behind him, Ben Smith. Gosh, he gets second place off his first place finish. On the women's side, it's Brooke Entz's second win of the weekend. 2 pounds over Lindsay Valenzuela. So she got 242. Lindsay got 240. And we come into the triangle couplet. And if there was ever an event that made my OCD go off the Richter scale,
that damn 6.
It was this stupid triangle couplet rep scheme of 15, 10, 6. Like, I was like, I'm going to have to go home and take a shower, turn my door handle 30 times in one direction, 30 times in the other direction. And oh my gosh, this hurt. I know there was a point behind it, because it was really about the triangle couplet meant stacking. If you were to stack cups, right? So if you're to do 5 cups on the bottom and 4, 3, 2, 1, it'd be 15, and 4 cups at the bottom, and then it'd be 10, and 3 cups at the bottom is only 6. And I was like, why, please, no, fix this. And it was thrusters at 165 and 115 and bar muscle ups, which was a really cool event to watch. Short, quick, a classic in the tennis stadium, nighttime event where, for lack of a better term, classic CrossFit, where our fittest athletes in the world can just send it.
Yeah.
Except they had to do 6 damn reps in the last round. My hair out for about 8. When did they announce that event, Dan? Was it right after the clean and jerk, and this is what you guys are doing tonight, or?
Yeah, I think that was the case for that one. I think we didn't know anything about it until we got briefed for it, and so they set the standards and everything, and then you go. So
you look at your hands, you're like, okay, guys,
dude,
we can do this.
How did your bicep tendons just not rip out of the sockets at the elbow with all the pulling, the 100 pull-ups, weighted, of course. You got, legless rope climbs. You got snatching. You got clean and jerks. You got more bar muscle ups. It's like, I mean, I get it. You have big biceps, Dan, but like, jeez, dude. So
Yeah,
much
it was one of those
pulling.
things.
For this games for a long time.
Why do you think I was so fired up for the weekend, Bill? I mean, can finally put these bad boys to some use.
It's the CrossFit bicep games. Okay.
Right.
Sweet.
My dream. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I said, you warm up and you feel good after you warm up. And I think adrenaline takes over. And the whole weekend, you're kind of on high alert at all times. After the weekend's over, you start to realize that, all that adrenaline fades and you're just exhausted. Like, you're mentally, and because you come down from that state of readiness of like, I need to be ready to go every hour on the hour for the next 4 days. And, you get out on that tennis stadium floor with the lights on and the crowd, and you're out there with the other competitors. You're not thinking about anything other than winning and putting on a show. Like, that's it. All the soreness, none of that stuff matters. So strategy for that one was, break up some thrusters early and try to do all the bar muscle ups unbroken. I knew that for me personally, that was going to be my best bet of catching guys, especially the bigger guys. And I think I broke twice. But did well in that event.
You had a great event. You got fourth overall.
On that one.
And it was close. It was Fraser 443, Olson 447, Sager 52, and you at 502. So 19 seconds separating first and fourth.
That's a good event.
That's fast.
That was a fun race to watch, minus the last 6 reps. But that's a me problem. So Matt Fraser wins. He was trying to bounce back from his performance that he was raging about on the soccer chipper. And Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, she gets her first win of the weekend. I think that was a much needed kind of cleanse the palate event for her. She was having a rough weekend up to that point.
It's pretty interesting. Like almost every year that they've programmed in the games, I mean, we're talking from like, basically 2007 to now, there's always been that hint of Fran that is always in there, the thrusters and the pull-ups, the thrusters and the pulling, the thrusters in gymnastic, that similarity, whether you're looking at like a heavy Fran or the chest to bar Fran or the whatever, there's like that element is always in there, that pairing of just even those two movements you see so often. Is really, I mean, that's really interesting, especially when you think of.
We'll go back to 2012, right? You had Fran.
Yeah.
In 2013, it was legless.
Yeah.
2014, it was I would say 21-15-9 couplet is similar-ish.
Totally.
Franish style. And then you have this one, which is heavy thrusters and bar muscle up. So, yeah, you're right.
It's a trip, man. It's really interesting.
Look at you, Bill.
I mean, that's what we do when we talk about this stuff.
The analysis. Jeez.
Talking about it,
High quality content no one showed up to listen to. All right. That closes out Saturday night, and we move into the final day of competition. And it starts off in a tennis stadium. We had Midline March last year, which was such a cool event to watch. And then we followed it up with Midline Madness, which was not a
womp wah. Boring.
We'll go through it. Let me go through it. So, starting off the fourth and final day of competition, 6 rounds for time, 400-meter berm run. So it's up the stairs around that back berm and back down. 50-foot yoke carry, weights at 380 and 300. And it was, well, Dan, you can let us know how it was because we're just talking about something we've never actually done before. But it looked like a running event.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really struggled with the yoke too much. I mean, any struggle might have been if you were unsure about how to pick it up. Maybe you kind of fumbled around a little bit there more than other people. But I feel like once that thing was up, everybody cleared the distance without having to put it down.
It was a glorified
Yeah, it was a berm run. It was like running the berm really hard over and over again.
And
Yeah.
I was so bummed because they had, you look out on the soccer field floor and you have because everyone's out there and you have all these yokes out there. It's like, yeah.
When are
Oh,
they
that
gonna
doesn't
go
even count. It really doesn't even mean anything. It's like it's just to kind of put you out on the floor so you can kind of see who's in the lead on the run. Like that's all.
I
That's
mean,
all it really was.
it was heavy. Like you could, lifting it up, especially at that point in the weekend and being under fatigue, like you could feel it, but I don't know if they needed some more distance there or just make it heavier or
Well, that was
what.
going to be to you is what do you think would have been more an appropriate thing with that yoke? Either
Rewrite that one.
Is the same and have maybe 100 more pounds on it to actually have a factor in the event, or
if you're just going to keep it to those two things, the running and the yoke, then they should have made the yoke heavier.
Okay,
for sure. If you were going to try to add in the strongman stuff while you're running and have to actually, do a nice hard loop, I would have thrown in like some sandbag over the cross member or like stone over the cross member, or throw in one more.
like another strongman thing.
Yeah. Put in another implement or something like that. That would have been like yoke carry, run back, and farmer's carry, and make the farmer's carry that much heavier or something like that. But outside of that, I would think that it's just, you probably could have made the yoke heavier and just made it a little bit more of a struggle there. Make it something that a lot of people are going to have to put down halfway through,
Well, remember they did, I think it was the first year at Madison when they had the yoke, you had to increase the weight every single round.
Oh, the final
in
event.
the final event.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So even something like that would be and this is no bad on Dave. I mean, Dave, I love his programming and stuff. But like when I look at this one, I'm thinking bring the running down a little bit. I mean, have the running in there, but either jack the weight way up or add it, have the weight increase so that there's. I mean, we're calling it midline madness. There wasn't anything there that made it midline to me. This was running madness to me. Like when I look at it, I mean, I think you guys did enough running that particular games not to have to add another 1.5 miles on it. That's just me.
So,
but it looked cool. I mean, it was big. There's a lot of moving pieces, but just wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't.
Yeah. Well,
I think they missed the point. I think they missed the ball on that one myself.
Yeah, just a little bit maybe.
And I'd agree. Look, you've been programming every event since 2007. They're not all going to be winners, but
mine are. I don't know what you're talking about.
For us, like coming in, is that we wanted to see maybe an event when it was set up. Like I said, your expectations were one thing, and then what transpired was another. On the men's side, it is Jacob Hepner.
Yeah.
Always has the best post-event win interviews. So he gets first place. On the women's side, I think this is where you start to look at the weight kind of being a non-factor.
Totally.
Sam Riggs gets first. Kristen Holta gets second. Anna Tobias gets third. Margot Alvarez, Katrin David's daughter. You look at those top five, and you don't really see something of a yoke really deterring those names, which normally would, I would say, if there was a bit heavier movement, whereas a good blend of endurance and strength tested in an odd object way. We don't need to beat a dead horse too much, but that was the last, I would say, general event until we get into the finals. And here we go. The inappropriately named pedal to the metal. On paper, I'll say this. On paper, when you read it now, you're like, heck yeah.
Yep.
Let's go, right? Full send. Almost to the point where you're like, I don't want to do this event because how hard I'm going to have to go. And then they started the event, and you're like, okay.
They said go, guys.
You can begin now.
Hey, go ahead.
So here's what it was. It was a two-part final event. Dave unveiled a brand new implement to the CrossFit Games. There always seems to be one. and it was 3 pegboard ascents. And honestly, when he brought it out and he said what the event was in our production meeting, I was so excited.
Yeah.
I was like, hell yeah, pegboard. Let's see how these guys can take this on and tackle it. So 3 pegboard ascents, 24 calorie row, 16 cal bike on the assault bike, and then 8 dumbbell squat snatches at 170. Little turnaround break. I don't know what was the time in between events, Dan, do you remember?
It was, I can't remember what the cap was. There was a cap and then probably 2 or 3 minutes at the max, maybe a minute. Yeah. Not a lot. No.
And then they moved into part B, and this is kind of reminiscent of the Cincos, was 12 parallel handstand push-ups, and you could kip, 24 cal row, 16 cal bike, and then 8 kettlebell deadlifts with kettlebells I'd never seen or knew that they made before at 203 and 124, and I mean in each kettlebell. When they brought those things out to the competition floor, like my eyes, I mean, obviously my deadlifting prowess is as popular as I'm not, but I was just like, oh, well, it's not often an event comes up and I go, can't do that one. Also, I don't want to do that. But I think that the big story here for a lot of people, and this was more on the women's side when it started, was just the inability of anyone to do this event until you got a couple into the later heats, and it was a lot of just standing around and watching other people stand around watching a pegboard.
Watching Margot do pegboards.
Do pegboard, yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about it, you think about the weekend that we had, and arguably one of the hardest tests up to that point, and you could probably argue harder than some since then, maybe, based on some of the things that you mentioned, Bill. Like, there's a lot of repetitive. It was packaged up differently, but a lot of pulling, you could even talk about how the paddle is all pulling. It's 2 miles of that of people who don't do it, or people who, and you have to be tested on things you don't do and all that good stuff. But now all of a sudden you get thrown in on Sunday, you're exhausted, your arms are just absolutely spent from 10 different things that you've had to do, and you're thrown something that you've never probably done before that's highly technical. It demands a lot of tension in the arms and all that. So it didn't surprise me to see as many people not do it, or not do as well as, we all kind of hoped, given what everybody had been through.
Do you think that I have my opinions on this. Do you think that was a good test to have in there? Or if you think that it's a good test and it needed to be modified somehow, how would you have changed it? So, I mean, because all we do in this show, we armchair quarterback everything. So we're armchair quarterbacking this design right here. What would you do to that?
I would have maybe moved it earlier in the weekend.
Okay. I love the event.
I love the event. I love the, I thought you've got that high skill kind of gymnastics thing. You exhaust yourself on the bike, and now we're going to squat snatch. And what was the weight again? Was it 100? I think it was the first time we ever, highly technical.
A squat snatch with a dumbbell, obviously.
With a dumbbell,
You guys had done it before with that regional event in 2012.
Yeah, but that wasn't squat snatch.
Well, yeah, it wasn't a squat snatch.
Yeah, it's a totally different animal when you have to one arm overhead, getting below parallel is not an easy thing to do, let alone 100 pounds in your hand. So I maybe would have moved it earlier in the weekend, but at the same time, I finished under the time cap. I was able to do it. So I'm pretty proud of that. And I'm like, well, maybe you guys just aren't fit enough. I'm fitter than you, and therefore I did better. So
that's the answer.
I wouldn't change the workout at all based on the fact that I was able to finish it. All the top guys were able to finish it for the most part, I believe. You just got to be better, I guess. I don't know, but maybe I would have moved it to a different part in the weekend. That's about all I can say.
Well, it's weird because for the most part, the guys didn't have a problem with it. It became mostly a women's thing.
Honestly, only 6 guys finished, Bill. I'm looking at this.
Yeah, finished, but they still were able to make it. There wasn't anyone that on the guys' side where they sat down and they're like, okay, so what's the next event?
True.
because
But
I'm just going to go ahead and
Yeah.
rest right now, you know?
Yeah. Well, you
So-
want to talk about?
the issue.
Oh, go ahead, Chase. Sorry.
Sorry. The women already obviously had the issue, and that's kind of more what we're talking about. But the guys didn't exactly light the world on fire either.
I remember the comment while we were broadcasting when this came out, and I said, these athletes might not have any idea how to do this, but I guarantee you all their parents do. Because this piece of equipment was in every single gymnasium, high school, junior high. I mean, in the U.S. for sure. You know, I'm sure in all the other gymnasiums anywhere. Like, this wasn't a brand new thing. New to these guys.
My dad literally texts me. He goes, "Finally."
Yeah. See, I told you, man. I told you. But that was, you know, and we talk about that a lot. Is it how far past the realm of can they get it? Are you allowed to go to say that it's a fair test? And I think there were a lot of people that said that this was way out of the realm, like they just weren't ready to do that. And I personally disagree with that.
I
disagree. I disagree. Yeah.
No.
You do disagree, or you don't disagree?
Where I'm agreeing with you.
I agree with
okay.
you as well, Bill. Yeah, I agree with you.
You know, and even though, and this is again, it goes back to one of those things that when you're looking at the test versus how does it look on camera, and the test is, I think, I love what it is. I think it's cool. It even when you look at the guys when they were doing their thing, it's an exciting race on both ends, 1 and 2. Whether the women or a lot of the guys got hung up on the pegboard or not, to me, doesn't diminish what it is, because there were a lot of athletes that did the exact same thing on the rope climbs. And no one said on the rope climbs, you know, they probably shouldn't have had that one there. It's totally unfair. It's too much for these guys to be able to do. No one said a word about that. They're saying it here. It just wasn't. It wasn't the flash and dash of the very end, and that's the end. You know,
Final event. It's in the limelight. This is to finally determine who the fittest on earth is going to be. And one piece of that, I mean, we'll get here in a little bit, but there was a lot still, like nothing was set in stone.
No.
exactly.
Coming Sunday, it was like, okay, you know, Rich is going to win again, although in 2014 it still wasn't settled. But it was always like coming into the weekend and the final day, especially the final event, you knew who was going to win, so there wasn't as much drama. Coming into this one, it was, we don't know what's going to happen on both the men and the women's side. So what is the final going to be? And then they announced it like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then when it unfolded, it just kind of flopped. It flopped until the final heat, because once the final heats on both the men and the women's side, like if you just watch that, I think Dave was talking about it in the documentary. Everyone's like, oh, this is the most boring final ever. And I completely disagree, because when you talk about the heats that counted, this
super exciting.
Well, yeah, exactly. Was by far the most exciting, intense finish at the CrossFit Games ever. I think until you saw the Cara Webb, Tia Toomey overhead walking lunge kettlebell finish like 2 years later.
Yeah. The race between, you know, Matt and Ben, watching those guys battle, watching.
Well,
trade it off back and forth, but the like that Matt then is such a different Matt now. I mean, there was frustration. There was like, dude, I can't catch him. You know, I can't get to him. He does this kneel where usually he's kneeling and looking around to see where everyone is, to see like, oh, I can rest while everyone's going. Now he's kneeling like, what the heck? I can't. It's not working. You know, I thought it was a great way to finish. And I back then I would have said, put the pegboard at the 2 so that you see people racing into that, or flip it so that the pegboard's the last thing. And so you're kind of getting rewarded if you have the pegboard. But now, like looking back and thinking about the drama part of it, put it in the first part, because then there's a crescendo to the end, which is what we ended up getting in Pedal to Metal 2.
Yes.
You know?
100%.
So Spencer Hindle wins Pedal to the Metal 1 for the men. And on the
2.
women's side, he wins 1 and 2. So we'll just get those out of the way. He absolutely destroyed the final event, and we'll talk about that when we look at the overall standings. Margot wins. Pedal to the Metal 1. And on Pedal to the Metal 2, so let's talk about this. Because a lot of people might say this is a controversial final on the women's side. So we said earlier is that the women struggled mightily here, and a lot of them didn't get a single pegboard. And some of them just opted to not do it.
Yep.
Tried a couple times, and then they just sat there for the next 7 or 8 minutes, plus the 2-minute break in between, and just rested for the last one. And one of those was Katrin Davidsdottir.
Was there was a work requirement on that one? You had to get one pegboard or no?
No work requirement.
No. Okay.
This this is my theory. This is the event and moment that created the must make an effort to complete the event clause. Because I feel like in 2016, that was a new rule, especially in regionals, is that even if you couldn't accomplish the work, you still had to get, it was like this vague, really weird rule. Dan, do you remember it?
It's the
I want to interject. Yeah, I want to
rule.
I want to interject hard here because that rule is absolutely stupid. In a world of measurable, observable, repeatable, you can't do any of those three things with, well, you have to try. And it's like, that's just a horrible way to do it.
I didn't
and
like that.
the way that I think you get around that, and the thing that I would have loved to see in every games that I've ever been in, and it would require you to have a better handle on the events, an incredibly good handle on the athlete's ability. But if you DNF an event, you get 0 points.
Yeah.
I don't care if you took 10th in your DNF. You get 0. You did not finish.
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
So if there's 3 people that finish, they are the only 3 people who get points. They get 100, 98, or 95, and 92, or whatever that split is.
Yes.
But if you don't finish, you don't get, oh, you didn't finish and you got 75 points. Like, what? Are you kidding me?
Yes.
You couldn't do the test and you're rewarded for that? Like, and
Or
part of me, if you can hear the bitterness in my voice, gentlemen, because if that was a rule, I would have been on the podium.
So this is where you went back and did the math, right?
There was not an event that I did not finish at the CrossFit Games in 2015. So I think that does away with everything. I mean, that pretty much kind of handles it. It's like, wow, you were that unprepared. You don't get anything. And if this person you're battling against finishes the event, you're going to get stomped because you couldn't even get to the finish line.
I would say at the very least, if you did 0 work, you get 0 points.
Yeah, if you didn't do 1 rep, you didn't.
Time capped, I don't count that as a DNF. You just got time capped. That's me. I mean, I totally understand where you're at. But at the very least, if you did 0 work, you should at least get 0 points for that. You shouldn't be able to sit on your butt for a whole event and get 50 points.
Yeah.
Or, whatever the tie break points end up being with, everybody else. I think that was a mistake.
And that would change what that event would look like. So you take the exact same deal, you take the exact same setup, everyone's point totals going into it and everything, and that one cent. And I agree with you, Dan. I agree. You shouldn't be rewarded for not doing anything, or I mean, at least if you have a minimum work requirement, it's gonna cause people to do some work because I think that's
you could
kind
have
of
the minimum work requirement for you to even be considered for points. Like if you don't hit this mark, you don't hit this rep count, you're at 0.
Right.
No matter what, if you get 1 shy of this mark, you're at 0. You don't get anything.
And I think that would have forced a much more dramatic, and would have just made it dramatic anyway. Whether people are getting them or not, all of a sudden now there's that. It's so much more important. Like you can't afford to just sit back.
Well, that was strategy Some people decided not to do it. It's not like maybe they couldn't have after 8 minutes of trying, but like because there was really no penalty or minimum work requirement, strategy came into play of just
and you
I'll
can't
just do nothing.
when you can't judge someone. You can't say that someone's doing bad because it's strategized within the rules. That's the way the rules are set. And that,
Right.
just like to your point, Dan, like if you're going to make a setup like that, you have to know the event so well to think, how are people going to make their way? What are the shortcuts that people are going to try to take? And like when you think that way, there's really you have to think outside the box. You can't just think, well, we're at the games, of course everyone's going to try. Because
No.
we've seen that, especially at this event, we've seen that in the past where
Yep.
people didn't try. Like, you know,
Yep.
when the end 1, 2, 3, that was the exact same deal. There was gaming, there was discussion there about that. So you would have thought that would have been at least in the mindset creation rules.
Yep.
Even way back,
everyone's going to try to win. So
yes.
What are the best options for me to win? And if that's sitting on my butt based on the rules, then you're probably going to sit on your butt.
Totally. Yeah.
All right.
Crazy.
That was good. That was that's been building up a little bit for a few of us. All right. So pedal to the metal 1, we said Spencer Hendel, Margot Alvarez takes the win. Pedal to the metal 2, Spencer Hendel wins again. And on the women's side, it was Katrin Davidsdottir. So she came back after doing no work in pedal to the metal 1. But I'll tell you what, neither did Sam Briggs. She got Cat 51, Cat 51, and Cat 51. And guess what? They went first, second, and third in the pedal to the metal 2. Flip side of that, Margot Alvarez got 35th. So just kind of what happens.
Pretty backwards right there.
Yeah. So, and then so I'll kind of shift programming talk aside just a little bit, and just being able to watch what went down. 2015 for both the men, women, and teams was, you couldn't have written a better script in terms of maybe excitement and drama of how they all played out. It was unbelievable how close it was on all 3 divisions to determine who the winner was going to be. And watching Katrin do those last kettlebell deadlifts where she would do 2, because she was behind Sam Briggs by quite a bit. And then she comes off the bike into 2 deadlifts and penguin walks and then 2 again. And she all the way down to that final set of 2, just the roar in the stadium that was going on at those final events for both the men and the women was almost deafening. It was so much fun to watch. And, Bill, I know you were calling it, but
yeah,
again, where we sit, we're in this little box seat based on what would be the 50-yard line box seats for when we were broadcasting. And you just open up those sliding glass windows, and I would sit on the edge of it just like I was on a balcony just watching it all take place. And it was the loudest I'd ever heard the tennis stadium. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. That entire weekend, I mean, all the games, we talked about the growth of it and how it, more fans every single year. And then they have to bring in, bleachers, extra bleachers to get more people down there to watch it. And, the tests seem to get more, the spectacle becomes more and more grand. And I really honestly think that this was, not because of Murph, but if you just look at the sheer volume of what everyone was doing, this was one of those ones where, oh shit, did we over test what we were trying to test? Yeah. I think it rode the line. I think it was a great test. It was so exciting, and I loved so many of the events, not the yoke one, but so many of the other events. But it really rode that line. And then this is where I started seeing other events, Granite Games style events or whatever, where everyone started to try to copy this. And you see and hear athletes saying how bad they feel off the games training when they go to these events and just get there. Just like, I am broken, man. I'm not ready to do games level stuff right now this early in the season. And it was I don't want to say it was a bad template. I think it was appropriate for what it was supposed to do. It was very aggressive in all aspects. I think it rode that line. It rode the line.
That's the question I was going to actually ask you, Danny, because you're talking about the weekend and the adrenaline and then coming off of it. Watching this final, I can't remember who I told this to, but after watching the whole weekend unfold, I looked at someone, I said, you're about to find out who really wants to be Games athletes after this year because of just how brutal the test was. And just from watching it, how long, or what is the aftermath like, waking up Monday morning after the CrossFit Games?
Oh man, it's not as physical as you might think. For me personally, Saturday, I felt the worst after Murph and everything and like just being locked up. And Sunday, I actually felt a little bit better, like having some gap between those events. And so, you're pretty busted up physically. Like you're sore, your joints hurt, like all of that stuff, especially since, like I mentioned, that state of like high alert is kind of gone. That's masking probably a lot of the pain. You just turn it off. It's not an option to feel it or to accept that it's going to slow you down when you're out on the competition floor. And so all that stuff starts to pop up once you wake up on Monday morning. But for me, honestly, it's like emotionally and mentally, just everything just kind of drops. Like you drop your guard down and you can kind of like exhale and you're just exhausted from it. You didn't really realize, I don't think, until that point, how wound up you've been for a week straight, just about like how, you haven't been able to relax. You haven't got a good night's sleep. You haven't gotten any of that in 5 or 6 days now, and finally all that kind of comes to a head on Monday. And at the same time, it's like a little bit of a relief, like the weekend's over and it's a good feeling too. It's one of those things like I did it and I did it well and I did it to the best of my ability. And man, that was awesome. Like I'm so glad that I get to be one of the fittest men on earth and do this for, partially for a job, partially just because I love it, partially because it's what I feel I was called to do. Like there's all those kind of emotions floating around. So the next day is equally rough. It's rough, a little bit rough, but overall it's a good feeling. Like it's a good feeling to have some of that pain and the kind of the letdown, I guess, from the weekend.
Yeah,
man,
really
that's
cool.
Crazy. So cool. It's like the day after Christmas. I'm not even in it, and I feel like that when I'm driving back. I'm packing up all my stuff, and I'm like, oh, dang.
I know.
Right.
People don't know the people who are working the event and volunteer, and they probably get less sleep than the athletes do.
Crazy. We talked about what the demo team has to go through over that week.
Oh God, that's borderline worse than the games. Hold on, run it back. Do that one again.
Do Murph, but partition it this time. Like,
yeah, I just finished 10 minutes ago. We know we're on the clock. We don't have time for this. Let's go.
Oh man! All right, so we have come to the end of the weekend of the 2015 CrossFit Games, and Dan, what we do at the end is we look at a few things. One is we try to be as objective as we can at the end. We look at what the events were, what the movements were, the modalities, the time frames, the rep schemes. We keep track of these in this little chart we have here from the Level 2 handbook. It's nothing
nice,
groundbreaking or, make this up, but it's a programming analysis worksheet, and it just helps steer the ship with a more of a objective view. So we're going to look at the programming as far as it stacks up in kind of the numbers, and then we'll look at the scoring and see, hopefully, that really wasn't an issue when it comes to the final part of the podium. So we're looking at gymnastics. There was 8 specific gymnastics event, 14 weightlifting, and 10 monostructural. If you just think
wow,
running, sprinting counts, bike, row, double unders, but there's no double unders this year. They had swimming, they had paddle boards, they had 10 different monostructural. And we thought there was a lot the year before where there was 7, and now there was 10. What that means, not necessarily too much. It's just a new number that we've had. On the time domain, so you have a heavy day, something sub 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, 11 to 20. You're more general time frames you would see for a classic CrossFit time frame, and then 20 plus. There's one heavy day. I consider the clean and jerk as the heavy day. I consider the snatch ladder as like a sub 5 minute event.
Workout, yeah.
Because it wasn't a single lift. There were 7 sub 5 minute events at the CrossFit Games this year out of the 13 scored events that they had. So over half the events.
Wow.
Sub 5 minutes.
Did you count the snatch ladder as one event, as one thing, or did you count it as 3 with the 3 different heats?
That's counted as one event.
Okay.
And then they had 1 5 to 10 minute, 2 11 and 20, and then 2 20 plus minutes, which were more 30 plus minutes with the swim and Murph. Let's see. Rep scheme wise, low is considered about sub 50. 8 of the 13 events were sub 50 rep events when you look at the rep schemes.
Wow.
Along with the 7 sub 5 minute ones. You know, I kind of threw the sprint in there as one. I considered the sprint, because they were scored separately, I considered those 2 separate tests. So even though it was the same test and run backwards, it was still scored differently, which is, I mean, objectively, they were 2 different events, so I'm labeling as 2 different things. Just like pedal to the metal 1 and 2. Those are 2 separately scored events, but very similar sub 5 minute ones. So they were, you know, there's a lot of those back to back. So it sounds a bit more skewed than it might really be. But again, I'm just looking at the numbers. There was a lot of pulling. There's a lot of gymnastic pulling, and there was a lot of weighted pulling, hang power cleans, deadlifts, pig flip,
bar muscle ups,
rope climbs, bar muscle ups, peg boards.
It's like
pegboard.
Pegboard. So there was a lot of the kettlebell deadlifts, hang squats or squat snatches with the dumbbell. There was a lot of pulling. So when we look at it, those are just kind of certain things that jumped off the page to me. I don't know. I mean, I think we've said it a lot. Like the pulling was very apparent this year. But one thing that surprised me was the shorter events, those sub 5 minute time frames this year far outweighed the others.
That's awesome. I love that.
Thus, Dan's best performance ever.
That's one of my best performances ever.
We look at that, and then we'll look at what we'll do is we'll look at the overall leaderboard, and we had Chad Schroeder, stat man himself. I've never seen someone more productive that in a pair of Vibrams than Chad Schroeder. Won't let it go.
Suede, brown suede, 5 fingers, of course.
So Chad put all these numbers together. And he made us, you know, we sound stupid normally until the very end when we start giving you guys what Chad gave us. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the overall leaderboard, look at the scoring system that they used, and then we compare that to what Bill started this, and now I'm kind of jumping on board, is just testing who wins based off average finishing place for the weekend. What did you get across the board? What's the median? There's your winner. And we come down, so we have the 6th new scoring system in 9 years. So we got a lot of consistency here.
It's experimental, dude. It's data, experimenting, trying to figure out what's going to be the best call.
And in 2015, different than 3 years prior. So what usually happened in this tiered scoring system, it would start at 100, drop to 95 and 90. You would drop 5 points down to 5th or 6th place. This year, it actually grew. So we already kind of had an issue of rewarding wins versus overall collective performance. And now this year is magnified even more because it's dropping 6 points from 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and then 4 points 4th down to 10th. So getting a top 3 finish, or especially a win at the CrossFit Games now, is even more important. So what does that mean? So we look at the overall leaderboard. Ben Smith wins at a score of 915. Matt Fraser gets 2nd place at 879. And then 100 points behind him is BKG at 766. Dan Bailey right there, 4th place, 730. God, what a great year, man.
Yeah.
On the women's side, Katrin Davis-Daughter gets her first CrossFit Games win. Same with Ben Smith. She has 790, Tia Toomey 750, and then Sarah Sigmundsdottir 7 points back at 743. Ben Smith had 2 event wins. Matt Fraser 1, BKG 1. Dan Bailey, you had 2. Spencer Hendel had 2, and those are the final 2 events. Katrin won the last event of the weekend. Sarah won 1, and Briggs won 2. Okay, so those are the point systems. Now we'll look at event place finishing. So Ben won by a narrow margin in points. Here's the crazy part. We're like, oh, it was so close. They went back and forth. Ben's average finishing place this year was 7.3. You want to guess?
So
Wow.
crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Because they were only, let's see, 36 points separated the two of them at the end of the day. And that's with a 17th place finish at the end for Matt. Matt's average finishing place was 10.7. Over 3 places worse than Ben Smith, and he almost won the games. Think about that. And here's the crazy part. Matt Fraser got second place, 113 points over BKG, and they tied. Explain
They
that.
tied in the average?
10.769 for Matt Fraser and BKG, but Matt beat him by 110 points.
Yeah, but that was 3 events: a 37th place, a 34th place. I mean, he didn't do good in the sprint, didn't do good in the rope climb. So that brought that down. I mean, I again, from the beginning, I have said that I like you get your points, and that's what it should be. There's no like breakdown. I don't like getting extra points for winning, or if you win, you win. You get it. They should all be scored equally.
I'm just providing the information.
I like it.
You are listening can take that for what it is.
Yes.
So for average finishing place, Matt and BKG tied.
So crazy.
But he won
crazy.
by 100 points. Dan, you were only 1 finishing place out of that. You were 11.769.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Makes your feelings even worse.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I just spent 2 hours on the, phone with you. I'm going to break a couple windows.
Find out your toilet's leaking again. So there you go.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Okay, so on the women's side, Katrin Davis-Daughter, 10.9 average finishing place. Tia Toomey, 11. We're talking about less than 0.1 difference between the two of them. But Katrin beat her by 40 points.
Yeah, that one's crazy to me.
And Sarah
that one's really crazy.
She was 3.6, so she wasn't as close. But we just want to show you guys like the scoring system and how you do it can affect certain things. It didn't change who won, but Ben Smith, it's like, as close as it was, Ben Smith dominated the 2015 CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Those
couldn't have happened to a better guy. Guy's a savage and a super good human.
So long, and he'd be, he kind of like got on the podium and not on the podium, and then finally,
that
event win. That was really cool. I was really happy for Ben to see that. And this, obviously, this was the games that created the monster that we know as Matt Fraser today.
Yeah.
Because of what happened. But it was just kind of crazy to look at the scoring system at the end of that and how it all shaked out. Now, we will say at the very end, it did not change who won the 2015 CrossFit Games, no matter which scoring system you used. It was still Ben Smith. It was still Katrin Davis-Daughter at the end of the weekend.
Yeah. that was such a I love the fact that Ben, like the spotlight just wasn't really even on him until that last race between him and Matt. It really, and even when it was close, like it was amazing how fast everyone counted him out and just assumed that Matt was going to get the spot, Yeah,
I mean, that's how Ben's more reserved. Ben's a little bit more quiet. He doesn't show as much emotion, but he's a competitor. Like,
Oh man.
what's going on in that head when he's getting ready to compete is the same thing as any other champion out there. And he proved it in 2015. I was so happy for him. Just like you guys mentioned, I mean, he'd been around for so long and he'd done so well at so many things. And you're like, how is this guy not won yet? How is he not? Like, it doesn't make any sense because he's that good. And then, you know, to see him get it. I have a great picture I need to frame of me giving him a big bear hug after he found out he won, or after he finished and knew that he won. Yeah. Just kind of the relief it looked like was on him after competing so long and being in the hunt for so long and finally getting at the top of the podium. It was cool to see.
It's awesome. That is awesome.
Well, hey, we've come to the end of the show already. We Rory's marathon time by about 15 minutes. So that was a good one.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh yeah. Overall, games wise, how it shook out. I think this year there was a couple holes in there. I think definitely before, like, again, I'm coming off my favorite games ever in 2014 as far as the program is concerned. 2015, still a great test. They tried a lot of new things that some hit, some missed. And that's just kind of necessary when you're trying to take the next step. And sometimes it's not necessarily a step back, but maybe a step to the side. So 2015, not my favorite games of all time. However, it was still one of my, I would say, in terms of watching it as a spectator, one of my favorite in terms of finishing the finals, how it all shook out. Just an electric and exciting weekend from start to finish.
Yeah, the drama that was created was gigantic, and I think the way the events were set up, you're right. I this was one of the ones that if we were to armchair quarterback it, we would probably change a couple things, and I think we talked about that through the episode. But I liked how you said that it's not a step backwards when you are trying to refine your test, but a step to the side to be like, okay, where do we really need to go? And we have to push the limits somehow. And I think that this was the one that pushed the limits on volume, on movements, on, are we testing or are we showcasing, and what are we really trying to accomplish? I really liked what the test was. I mean, some of the events in here are some of my favorite events. Ones I really liked. Mm-hmm. So it was a great year, man. Super exciting. I love when there's a race. I love when there's a race and you don't know. I hate it when it's locked up on the last day before you even do anything. That's boring.
Race we've had.
Oh man.
Years after this.
Yeah.
Especially on the inside.
I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up though. I like it. I still like it.
Dan, final thoughts on the weekend?
I mean, I thought it was amazing. A couple tweaks here or there, like you guys mentioned. But I never, going into weekends like that, honestly, I should have said this at the beginning. It just popped into my head. I don't want to say that I don't care what the events are, but that's not like, I don't make that part of my concern. I just make it part of my concern is you need to win. It doesn't matter what comes out of the hopper. Like, it's after 2011, some of the shock value left after we went into the ocean and all that. It's like, I'm not surprised at anything they do anymore. Like, I'm excited for it. And they brought the heat that year. Like you guys said, it's one of the toughest years for sure of all the years that have been programmed. And I'm just stoked that I got to be part of it.
Well, Dan, listen, I want to thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy guy. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I know the fans are going to love hearing your perspective. And, before we close things out, I would just like to send you off in the best way I know how.
Oh, if audio waves could blush.
Everyone, hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Get With The Programming as we were analyzing the 2015. Dan Bailey, thank you so much for being on. Bill, I know you got real life to get to, but hey.
It's all good, man. It was a great episode. Dan, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you too. Good to see both you guys. Thank you.
Keep that barn going.
You know what?
Next time for 2016.